Which store is the most painful to shop at? It used to be Sears when they were still around. It was impossible to find anyone, they never had what I wanted, and I went to the same Sears for most of my life. When I was younger, it was a beast, but near the end, you can tell it was dying. Sears has become a case study of poor management. With their early history as a catalog store, they could have repurposed themselves using that image. Marketing to the internet agent competed with Amazon. Instead, the CEO pitted different parts of the organization against each other in the belief that the competition would make the company stronger, but all they did was eat each other and aid in its destruction. I worked at a Sears for a few months selling appliances. Holy shit, they really did try to train me, but it was all about acting like you knew what you were talking about, and selling those warranties. It was a fun job due to my coworkers, but it didn't surprise me when it closed down. I wasn't aware they had employees at all. Like Hop, I never could find anybody in there, just other people walking around looking for an employee. I used to live down the street from my nan, and she told me to keep a lookout for the Sears truck to drop her new fridge. I never saw a truck, but lo and behold, a new fridge was in the kitchen later that day. Yeah, it's too bad Target in Canada was so badly run and rolled out. It had potential, but they never had anything on the shelves, even worse than Walmart, and most locations were in run-down former Zellers locations that were too small to begin with. The Target in my hometown was actually pretty good, as the former Zellers took over was only about 15 years old and was pretty big to begin with. It still never had anything on the shelves though. Yup, Target here opened too many stores before they had a reliable supply chain for them, so the stores were always half empty. It was too bad. They had so many great deals on video games, and had some good houseware stuff. I was sad when they went under. The app only marginally helped anyway, and got progressively worse as time went on. When I worked at a Walmart, I could reliably find anything people were looking for with my phone, but as the inventory outpaced the app, it just got worse and worse. Biggest issue I had was having to explain to countless people every day that the reason the app says we have something we don't. I was told just say the app can be a bit inaccurate sometimes, but the real reason is shoplifting. They have a policy of not stopping shoplifters if they can't do so non-violently. When I was in college, we'd sometimes end up going to Walmart to wander around at 2-3 a.m. when everything else closed because it was fun to watch all the weirdos there. We were too, of course. One time we were high and they had one of the giant bargain bins of DVDs. It looked like there were only 5 movies in it, so we sorted the whole thing. It was like 200 DVD cases but only 8 different movies. Anyways, the manager had an employee come mess it all up again. I suppose people are more likely to buy those if they have to dig a little. I used to love doing this. There was this point in time my dad had passed, and mom had insomnia. I was always a night owl, so we'd just go to Walmart at like 2 a.m. I was a budding little goth and would get all dressed up in my makeup and clothes. My BFF would come with on a weekend sleepover. It was just getting groceries and exploring the makeup aisle, buying cheap movies to binge watch, but it felt cool as a teen. My wife doesn't get why I hate it. People just don't have manners there. People don't walk on the correct side of the aisle. They stop and block aisles, and they're just generally rude. I can never seem to find an associate, and to top it all off, they used to sell these fried mac and cheese bites I loved and they no longer do. Oh, my God. You reminded me of a big cow of a woman who blatantly cut in line in front of me. She then looked at me to see what I was going to do. I fucking laughed the line as calmly as I could. I had my 2 young kids with me and there was no way I was let them see me lose my mind. I had to leave because I was already tired and was on the verge of running my mouth. That place can turn anyone into a low-class clown. No mac and cheese bites? That's it, folks. I used to work at Midger. The worst thing, the absolute worst thing, that someone could say to another was that their department looked like Walmart. We'd all bust on each other, and in some cases probably went too far, but saying that someone's area looked like a Walmart was the one line that absolutely would not be crossed. There's one opening near us soon. My first experience at a Midger was at my sister's wedding. It was getting late at night and my then 2-year-old daughter was sick, felt feverish, and was generally miserable. Midger was open, close by, and the associates fell over themselves when I said that I needed a thermometer and some infant ibuprofen. 2 dashed off for thermometers, 1 grabbed the ibuprofen, and they opened the closest checkout to the door just to hurry me through. It was the fastest, yet most memorable, shopping experience I've ever had, and I'd go back in a minute. Yes, you look something up. Scroll through about 30 options and the app freezes and refreshes and takes you back to the beginning. You heave a big sigh, find where you left off. Scroll through 10 more things, the app freezes up. Then you see an item like lipstick on clearance for $3. You click it. Well, you have to click each color, out of like 20, to see which color is the one that's so damn cheap. You find it, figure that's a good color for you, what a deal, and then you try to put it in your basket. But now it's suddenly $15. Fuck you, Walmart. Walmarts attract all of the lowest class people in a given area because it has the cheapest option for everything you could want to buy. They are poorly managed, understaffed, and everyone that works there hates it and does the absolute minimum. Going there to buy one thing you need, you're going to walk a mile plus because the store is enormous. You find the $10 widget but only one checkout line is open and everyone in front of you has never used a credit card machine in their lives before. That's good because it gives you plenty of time to ponder why it would have been better at double the price and waiting 2 days if you just ordered it from Amazon right now. But you've already come all this way. It's an absolute shit show. They are poorly managed, understaffed, and everyone that works there hates it and does the absolute minimum. As someone who has worked for Walmart longer than I care to admit, I can confirm that all of this is true, especially the poorly managed part. A pack of wild, untrained apes could probably run their stores better than the incompetent morons they pick for management. I used to think it was only an occasional thing, but it has somehow gotten worse. I stopped in the closest one to me, which, admittedly, has been one of the worst in town for years, but I took a chance, just a couple of days ago, to pick up a cheap pair of shoes. After finally deciding on a pair, headed from shoes, at the back of the store, up to self-checkout, at the front, only to be greeted with every self-checkout register being marked for card only. Since I had already pulled out cash for this, and there were lines of at least a dozen people waiting for each of the 6-man registers, I walked all the way to the back of the store to check out at electronics. What an idiotic enterprise. Most of the convenience stores in my neighborhood, there's almost always a person buying lotto tickets. They can't buy them all at once though. First they need to get their previous tickets checked, cashed in. Then they need to buy their weekly tickets. Then they need to buy a couple scratch and win tickets, which they quickly scratch off just the verification area. Depending on those winnings they'll buy more. When that's done, they'll look at how much change they have left and buy a couple more tickets. Meanwhile, there's a line of people forming behind the gambler as they treat the cashier like a slot machine. Years ago I used to be the night shift cashier and got stuck doing that. Luckily the machines would shut off at a certain time, can't remember when, maybe around midnight. We couldn't even check tickets after then and it was a fucking blessing. I think they popped back on at 5 a.m. and you better believe the gambling addicts would start lining up to buy and exchange their scratchers and check the numbers on the 43 tickets they bought the night before. My guess is that the convenience stores are making way too much money off of the gamblers to turn them away or interrupt their game. The guy at my store gets plenty angry at people. I'm in Montreal and the guy refuses to speak French. He'll get angry and yell at you if you try, but he has no problem acting like a casino for gamblers, even if they take 10 minutes and there's a lineup forming. I have an extended family member who successfully sued Hollister because she fell down a small step she straight up couldn't see because it was too dark as a part of the atmosphere of the store. Apparently she got quite a large payout, but it really did a number on her leg and she eventually wound up in a wheelchair. I may or may not have heard about this. They faced some other lawsuits too for similar reasons. The Hollister in my neighborhood shopping mall faced a lawsuit for discrimination because apparently they only hired good-looking teenagers at the time, whatever the criteria for good-looking is. I was in Hollister the other day. The atmosphere is nowhere near as bad as it was in 2009. I could breathe normally, see what I was shopping for, and I didn't need earplugs. However, the whole environment was really off. I don't know how to describe it. It was like I was in a different time period. They do still have some cute clothes, but I feel like Hollister in general was a fad that has kind of overstayed its welcome. Funny story, my wife is a 36DD. I stopped into a Victoria's Secret one day on my way out of a mall. I'm a guy. I couldn't find any bras lingerie that would fit my wife's size, and this voice comes up behind me. Can I help you? As I start to turn and am looking at a rack of clothes and I say I can't find a 36DD in this. Do you carry that? And as I turn I see this maybe barely 16-year-old girl in the skimpiest top he'd ever seen in public smiling at me. She said they don't, but she'd be glad to help me find something or else. Then she says panties perhaps. I just noped right out. Versus can suck it. Went there as a teenager with a group of friends to get properly fitted for bras. The sales lady was all positive and enthusiastic and assured us that they had the perfect bra for each of us. Get to me, and I measured as 34. Oh, she frowns and says, "Oh, we don't carry that small a size. You will have to special order it." So I had to sit there on a stupid pink velvet bench and watch my normal friends pick out frilly bras. That experience ruined my self-esteem for years. Luckily, now I love my little titties and my boring underwear. I'm sorry you had that experience, especially as a teen. I'm the opposite, and have a large band and bust size so nothing they have fits, and even the special order is garbage quality for a larger bust. I went there a few times. Felt like I was in a sex shop. Avoided all people because I felt like I was intruding on some pink cult, and then left. Now I do Soma and Third Love. If it makes you feel better, Versus is notorious for giving out wrong bra sizes. I'm actually shocked that the person who measured you told you they didn't have your size. Usually they lie about your size to get you to buy one of their bras. When I was in my late teens, they kept trying to tell me that I was a 32DDD, and I kept buying bras from them because they were the experts, but I would get the most horrific quadra-boob in them and the ladies at the store told me that was normal. I then went to a brick-and-mortar bra store that specializes in bra sizing, and they told me I was a 30H. Check out a bra that fits subreddit. They have a pretty legit calculator that helps determine your bra size. Or go to a small store that specializes in extended sizes. Cell phone carriers. You can't get anything done at AT&T or similar without them trying to sell you 15 things and services that are totally irrelevant to what you need. That is why I switched to Boost, because they will actually just sell you a phone without trying to sell you half the store. What should be a 10-minute experience of buying and activation of a phone ends up being about half an hour. On that note, rereading this is totally our first world problem. God, yes, and there's always some old fart in there who doesn't understand his phone at all, taking up the time of 3 employees because they can't figure out exactly what his problem even is. Last time I went in to trade in my phone and got stuck behind some 75-year-old man who wanted to put service on both of his phones, old and new, so when you answered the call it would play on the speaker of both phones at the same time. One was an iPhone, the other a Samsung. They kept trying to tell him the old phone was deactivated and he couldn't do that, but he didn't understand what deactivated meant. I had to wait for 45 minutes. That wasn't my dad, but he's definitely killed a lot of time in Verizon trying to get them to fix his phone, or show him how to change a setting. Again, the roughest is when he doesn't know what the phone or an app is doing different, just that it's different. Put it back to what it was, but also, can't separate the two entities. The apps are the phone is the apps. They now charge $10 for tech support because of how often it happens. I know it wasn't just my dad coming in. The best we can do is be patient. It's just frustrating when he's asking me questions I can't answer, or I'm trying to work through my phone's interface to tell him how to work through his. We live too far, and they don't know how to video chat, screenshot, etc., and then he's mad I can't help better. Like, please, I'm trying. I know you're frustrated, but getting mad at me isn't helping. It's just a bit hard to see how out of reach technology was for some people, as they were there for its advent. Yeah, they knew it existed, but it was rudimentary, not intuitive, and most of all very expensive. The average Joe wasn't even around this stuff. And beyond that, I think about how my dad worked at an assembly line for my entire life. He never needed to know any part of the coding behind the electronics as a copper welder, or use any of it in any way. He had no access to it, and no need. So when my friends started getting internet in late grade school because their office-working parents needed it at home for work emails, we were left behind even further. This isn't even ancient history, it's 1997. I don't mind that aspect so much. I am fine waiting because it's a public service that is first come first served. It's mostly the hard selling tactics they use. I don't need a $700 phone on a payment plan, with every accessory to man, and a $75 per month package that has a bunch of needless fluff I will never use, which ends up being more like $100 per month once the monthly payment plan for the phone is taken into account, which should be paid off just in time for your phone to be obsolete and breaking down. We had a Kmart that recently closed near us, and I used to love to go in there to see how few shits were given that day. Like, the staff knew Kmart was going down, and it was just so funny to me. For example, you know how in big box stores, they always have those big bins of product in between aisles, usually clearance stuff? They did this, but just said fuck the bins after a certain point, and shit was just in piles on the floor with a sign stuck in the middle. Just big piles of kids' winter coats on the floor. Goddamn hilarious. I took a cake decorating job at one of the last supermarkets just months before the entire grocery department was liquidated. The bakery manager only came in for a couple hours a day. The food service manager quit and was never replaced, and the store manager made it clear he was ready to retire. And the best part was, there were never any customers. I would just listen to music while decorating cupcakes however I wanted, take breaks whenever I felt like it, and my coworkers were happy and fun to be around. It was too good to last. This is a very American answer, the Rural King gun counter. For the uninitiated, Rural King is a big box store aimed at farmers and people who think they're farmers. Some groceries, but lots of jeans, feed, fencing, hardware, and farm stuff like that. They also have a gun counter, and unlike the dwindling number of Walmart gun counters, they sell a decent range of stuff including handguns and ARs. Gun store customers are dumb, but Rural King customers are a tier dumber still. Looky-loos who just want to waste time and finger guns they're not going to buy while the wife shops. Old Elmer Fudd types who just want to waste other people's time yakking at them about guns. Kids who can't buy their own guns yet but want to ogle them while mom yells at them to keep moving. Dummies who can't figure out the computerized background check system, etc. The employees do try, but it's a low-paying job with high turnover and most don't stick around long enough to build real expertise. They also do this incredibly annoying thing where if you do buy a gun from them, they will complete the sale and then summon a manager to physically march you out the front of the store before handing you the gun in its box. Also, one time I asked to open the box and inspect the actual gun I was purchasing, only to discover it was an entirely different model of gun by the same manufacturer. If I hadn't inspected it myself, the clerk would have straight up sold me the wrong gun. He didn't know enough to look at it and recognize it's not that model. Truthfully, plus-size clothing stores manned by extra-thin women. It is weird and often hilariously bad. I have been reprimanded for calling myself fat or land whale because that is cruel, and really it isn't, especially when my tits is the size of your head. It is especially awful when the salesperson is so tiny I could pop her between my tits and not find her for days. Also, modern clothing attempts to hide one's girth by weird cutouts, Seriously, I have had tops that I couldn't figure out how to wear because they left my titties and my tummy out, and no one wants to see that. Although I do love the animal prints, make me look thinner. They just make me look like a tiger who swallowed a large animal.